Our text is Psalm 44. We are beginning this psalm. I'm calling it a psalm of defeat. What is going on in our lives when we don't understand why God led us into a defeat or into a moment where it seems like He's let us down? Now, we're not talking about, in particular, suffering or affliction in the broad sense. We're talking about a very specific kind of interaction with God in which we were warring a warfare that we believed He wanted us to fight. We were fighting a battle that He led us into, and we were truly depending on Him in that battle, and yet it didn't go the way we anticipated it going. I said in the very first position of this psalm, we trust God with the desire, the dream that He puts in our hearts. We trust God in the pursuit of that dream, but we also need to trust God in the outcome, because all three of those components can really be disconnected in ways we don't understand until we experience them. The desire we anticipate, well, surely God will lead us to pursue it. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe He's going to re-architect or redesign the desire. Well, then in the pursuit, surely He's going to lead us to the outcome we anticipate or that we think, but not always. And in this case, in this psalmist's case, the outcome, at least for the moment, was defeat. This psalmist and this people had gone into battle expecting God to provide a victory. And in this moment, God led and unfolded an outcome of defeat. And so this psalm is particularly meaningful to you if you're in a moment or when you are in a moment of defeat in your life. I just have one quick thought to share with you today out of verses 1 and 2, okay? And by the way, just to give you, again, that high end, 3 parts to the psalm. Part 1 is verses 1 through 8. That's the first paragraph, which says, God, we've heard how great you are. Part 2 is verses 9 through 16, which is, but we're not experiencing that greatness. We feel you've led us in defeat and let us down. And then verses 17 to 26 is, but we're trusting in you and we're waiting on you anyway. And so it's a powerful transitional psalm. All right, let's pick it up in verse 1. We have heard with our ears, O God. Our fathers have told us what work thou didst in their days, in the times of old. Here's what I want you to grab a hold of. This is a second or third or fourth generation. We don't know for sure. But by virtue of the fact that their fathers have told them, this is a future generation of followers of God that are far out from the miraculous work that God did in delivering the people from Egypt, taking them into the promised land, conquering the promised land, the walls of Jericho falling, the rivers of Jordan giving way. I mean, the battle after battle after battle that God unfolded for the Israelites as they followed Him, and how He gave them possession of the land, and how He did amazing things that they could not take credit for. They just couldn't say this was us. They have passed those stories along, and they've told the experience of following God. Now, I want you to remember something. These people had the first 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch, the writings of Moses. They did not have the rest of the history of Israel. They did not have they would have had some Psalms. They did not have all the prophets. They certainly didn't have the Gospels or the epistles or the New Testament as we know it. And so their understanding of God was given to them by their fathers and passed down orally through testimony. And so their anchor points were the testimonies of their parents that had driven deep in their lives and had proved to be substantial in their lives. And what I want to drive home to you is, first of all, generically, the power of your testimony, okay? That, has anybody heard with their ears what God has done for you and how God has delivered and strengthened and walked with you? And in particular, have your children and grandchildren heard with their ears the stories of God's blessing and deliverance in your life and the work that He's done in your life? Because verse 1, a future generation's anchor points are found in the previous generation telling their story of what God did and who God is to them and how he's been faithful to them. Now, here's the struggle about doing that in today's culture. By and large, we have a generation of young people that don't ask questions. And it's hard to find those moments when we can insert ourselves into their narrative. So they don't ask us. And when we insert ourselves, we often feel a little bit unwanted, like we're invasive. They've got it going on. They know what they're talking about. They don't need us. And so we've got to pray for windows of opportunity. We've got to seek open and trusting and pliable, teachable hearts. And if you're a younger person, I'm speaking with myself as the reference point, right? If you're younger than me, hear me out for a minute. Have a tender heart and learn how to ask questions to the generation that's gone before you. Brilliant people. Look out in front of them and ask, who is successfully married? Who successfully navigated the path I'm on? Who is where I'd like to be in broad terms in a decade? Find those people who are faithful to God and then say, can I borrow your map? Will you tell me the stories? Share with me, how has God proven himself faithful in your life? You will become the recipient of not only some great stories, but some profound wisdom of those that have gone 10, 20 years down the road in front of you that can help you chart a values course and a wise course. So these people had anchored themselves in part because of the testimony of those who have gone before them. For an older generation, and I put myself there for the moment, I'm 52, it behooves us to look back and reach back and grab a hold of those that are willing to hear and willing to be taught and help mentor them forward. To a younger generation, it behooves you, it teaches you to listen, to have ears and hearts that are pliable and teachable. So we have heard with our ears, O God, our fathers have told us what work thou didst in their days in times of old, how thou didst drive out the heathen with thy hand and plantedst them, and didst afflict the people and cast them out. So another generation needs to hear of your victories. Another generation needs to hear your stories, your testimony. So who are you mentoring? I guess that's the question before us today. Are you mentoring anybody? Because you should be. Every believer of any age should be looking back 5, 10, 15 years and mentoring somebody. So find someone and begin that process today. Happy Thursday, my friends. See you tomorrow.